So today's video is going to be my thoughts on the Shane Dawson series, part 4. I thought it would be interesting to talk about it because I've done part 1 and part 2. And firstly, I wanted to mention my mistakes. I know not everyone's watching the Shane Dawson series, but a lot of people watch my videos, like they are probably the most viewed videos on my channel, so I thought I would sort of say it. I thought it was a bit odd at first that Shane was saying about how successful his palette is and how it's going to be a success, but then I realised after uploading that video that it is actually, they were talking about the Blue Blood palette. So I just thought I'd address that because I want to try and make these videos as accurate for people to watch, because people want like an accurate representation of it. This one, there was like no tea spill, which for drama channels was probably a bit of a bummer. For me personally, I just want to watch the series because it's interesting. But I'm not bothered about the tea. If it happens, it happens. We'll talk about the tea. If the tea doesn't happen, we won't have tea to talk about. But I'm just really not that bothered. I like just watching the behind the scenes of how a makeup product is made and produced. The process is moving quicker than I thought it would move, but seeing them make the logo and picking the shades for the big palette and the mini palette, I really enjoyed. If I sound a little bit bunged up, I've had a cold. I've still got it, so... And I get a bit bunged up at this time of the day, so I just thought I didn't say that. The episode wasn't my most favourite, but there again, that's just my opinion. The episode starts with Ryland and Shane visiting their old house. The editing was good, had smooth transitions. Like, I think in all of the series Shane's done, there's like really smooth transitions, which I really like. Like, I think he's a really good editor. This was not my most interesting bit, but there again, that was probably because it took up too much of the episode and it was like in certain rooms, like it was sort of one room for the majority of the time. Like, it wasn't going around like the whole house, so it was kind of boring. If it took up less of the episode, I would have enjoyed it more, if we'd have seen more of the house, I would have enjoyed it more, but that's just my own thoughts. The editing, though, blows my mind because Shane's editing is next level. I talked about this in the first one, how good it is that we're finding out about Shane himself, his own life. But they just needed to make that a bit shorter because there was lots of time in like one room. But that's just me, like... But it was good to see him talk about his own life because... it's just nice seeing other things outside of the makeup palette. The big thing in the episode was the call with Morphe. There are like a few key themes and a few key things happening in the episode. Visiting the old house, the call with Morphe, working on the palette. The big overarching theme is sort of knowing your worth and knowing not to sell yourself short, which I really think is a good thing to talk about. It was cool to watch. It was cool to watch the call with Morphe and see them as a business talking about their expectations of the palette, their expectations as a brand. It wasn't just going to be about buying of the units. It was also about supporting Shane and Shane's videos, maybe sponsoring a video from him. I thought that was interesting, like seeing the expectation side. They were talking about dates of releasing the palette. I like how we got to see and find out more about the conspiracy palette. The conspiracy palette definitely reminds me of like op art. I like finding out what was included in the collection, we're finding out when they're talking about the release date for the palette that there's also, we find out the release date, and there's also the launch with Jacqueline Hill. And I do apologise for that. I liked how they talked about, is it good or a bad thing for a product to be released around the same time as something else. It was interesting how they talked about wanting to release things and have moments of releasing so that that product gets its own moment of release, which is interesting because you could tell that Shane's Conspiracy palette was in direct competition with the James Charles mini palette, which was like the 1 year anniversary of the James Charles palette, which was released the year before. It's interesting to hear Jeffree Star talk about his palette when it launches, and it was interesting because I thought in the makeup industry everyone was just competing. I didn't know that owners could be friends with other owners in that same industry. Jeffree Star talks about the Anastasia Riviere palette, and now that came out before his palette, so both palettes got their moment and equal chance to perform well and their chance to shine. The launch, when it launched, was huge. The big centre theme was sort of the release of the Blue Blood palette. Seeing Blue Blood in the factory being made, I thought was interesting. It's good seeing them not only working on the Shane palette, but finishing off production with the Blue Blood palette. I love seeing sneak peeks of the Blue Blood palette. The girls' things where they asked who liked makeup are not necessarily a professional is a good thing because they're like daily use consumers, which I thought was clever. Like, they just use it in their general day-to-day life. They're not professional makeup artists. It's probably better to ask like random average people than necessarily makeup artists. It's good to see them sort of say, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I don't like that very much. They also took out a shade and made it more neutral because you can tell that, thinking about it in terms of what sells best, it's definitely more neutral palettes that sell better than really colourful palettes. Makes you realise that these brands make loads of money on neutral palettes because that's what sells. People want neutral palettes, so that's gonna make the most money. I like colourful shades in palettes. The swatches were my favourite bit. Everything I like seeing the swatches and that, I enjoy watching it. With this, there are two sides to this. There is the side that believes that Shane has an interest in makeup, and there's the side that believes that it's just a cash grab and he's only doing it for the money. Watching the clips of them doing their makeup with the palette was so cool and incredible to watch. I think Shane is doing it for the dollar, but he's also got an interest in makeup. And he kind of made me want to sort of get a sculpture and practice my makeup and do makeup on that. Because I can digitally do it, but in my real life I'm not the best at it, if you've seen some of my videos. But you can tell in the series that Shane does generally care about makeup, in the fact that those clips of him doing his makeup, he's excited about the palette. It's not like Kylie Cosmetics where you can tell they're doing it because of the money. They're not even that bothered about makeup. Obviously talk about the drama as much as this episode was not my most favourite. I liked the stuff about it. I liked seeing behind the scenes of makeup and all of that stuff. Like, those were my favourite bits. Like, I'm not really bothered about the drama. Like, I am sort of probably intrigued about the makeup, probably more than the drama, if I'm honest. But this was still a good episode. They've all been good episodes, so Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.